Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome one and all. You're watching What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. Ladies and gentlemen, government is slavery. Always has been, is now, always will be, until we decide to end it. And here on What on Earth is Happening, we are ending slavery, one mind at a time. Welcome and thank you for tuning in today. Today is Sunday, February 25th, 2024. This is episode number 284 of What on Earth is Happening. As always, What on Earth is Happening is a show of cumulative information that is presented in a stepwise progression. So if you are a new viewer or listener to this podcast, you should not start at the later episodes, but instead you should go back to episode number 1 and listen in order at your own pace all the way through without skipping around, and an entirely new worldview will begin to emerge if you take this content in that way. If you take it into yourself and into your psyche in that way, I will absolutely guarantee a new entire worldview will emerge for the potential student of this information. Today, we are going to be continuing our series on the unholy feminine, Revisited. And let's move over to my slides when you get a moment. Thank you. As always, thank you to Will Keller for the great title cards that he creates each week for the show. Again, today's topic is a continuation of the Unholy Feminine series, Neo-Feminism and the Satanic Epi-Eugenics Agenda, Revisited and Extended. This is going to be part 6 in this podcast series. Let's take care of some housekeeping announcements, and then we'll get into the material for today's show. We are on a new live 3-hour format for the What on Earth is Happening weekly show. Still on a 6-month on, 6-month off schedule. We do the What on Earth is Happening weekly shows from January through June each year. And then the second half of the year from July through December, I teach the How to Become the True Media seminar, which is a live interactive seminar that teaches people how to become content creators in their own right. So this is the new show format. We are simulcasting on 10 platforms. What on Earth is Happening? The One Great Work Network, Telegram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, Odyssey, and D Live. How to Become the True Media is racing toward us, coming at us from July 8th to December 9th of this year, but enrollment for the seminar opens April 1st in really just over a month. So this is a 23-week online technology skill set sharing seminar. I'm going to teach people all the skills that they need to know to become the true media, to become a content creator, to be able to deliver the information about what's going on in our world to the public at large, to be able to teach natural law, to be able to teach objective morality to the public. This is hosted on the Telegram platform, and it is a 23-week seminar, one night a week of instruction for 3 hours for 23 weeks. It's every Monday evening, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, live, from Monday, July 8th, 2024 to Monday, December 9th, 2024, for a total of 23 class sessions. I want to step out of the slideshow and go over to my web browser very briefly because I want to show you the curriculum for the seminar. I'm going to attempt to do this each week. I didn't do that really last year, but I really want people to have an idea of what is going to be taught in this seminar and the information that's going to be gone over to a very deep degree. The beginner and intermediate skill sets to be taught in this seminar are as follows: operating system skills, basic computer operation, file systems and disk formatting, file and folder management, workflow and best practices. Then we get into specific skill sets, word processing and publishing, internet and networking basics. I teach people all the basics of how the internet functions, how to set up a home network, all the components and hardware you need to do that, searching the web, searching the dark web, the part of the internet that is not indexed by regular search engines. Then we get into graphic design, print publishing, how to build presentations and deliver them, audio editing and publishing and audio hardware and equipment, video editing and publishing and hardware and equipment, how to do live streaming like the show you're watching right now, how to build your own website, how to do web publishing using a content management system. We get into all of that, and then some ancillary skill sets like internet sharing and collaboration if you have teams or partners, and of course, we go over all hardware and equipment that is to be used during all of these, computing processes. So that's the curriculum for the seminar. It is a $523.93 private donation to attend, to enroll. Okay, that is going to go up next year. This is the last year I am able to offer this seminar at that extremely low price for the amount of hours and the course material that I teach. The accepted donation methods are any donation method that I accept in What on Earth is Happening donation gifts, including Cash App, GPay, Wise, Zelle, 9 different cryptocurrencies, personal check and money order, and we'll go over that in a moment. It's a private seminar open to those who make the private enrollment donation. Each private donation is for one student to attend. Each student must enroll separately. There are no enrollment discounts. There are no special plans, no enrollment donation plans, no partial enrollment donations, no enrollment date extensions, or anything like that. So please do not ask for those things. Don't write and ask for those things. We want to keep it very fair and, the same for everyone who attends. So no favorites are being played or anything like that. So please do respect that and don't ask for any special treatment for enrollment. These classes will be only live. They are hosted in live time. So if you cannot be present in live time, do not enroll. I do not record these classes for later distribution on the internet. They are not sold as videos. This is a live interactive seminar. So if you can't attend in live time, do not enroll. The only requirements technology-wise is that you must have a laptop or desktop computer that is capable of running the Telegram desktop software available at desktop.telegram.org. If your computer can run that, you're good to go to attend the seminar. Not recommended at all to use a mobile device such as a smartphone or tablet to attend this seminar. You will not get a good experience by doing that. You want to attend on a computer with a decently sized monitor. That's why I tell people they can attend on a laptop, but I think you should have a laptop that's probably at least 15-inch screen size or larger. Most people have underpowered laptops. I really recommend attending it on a desktop because the skills that I'm teaching are for content creators that will generally be creating content on a desktop computer in the future. When enrolling, please enter valid, correct, and up-to-date contact information, including your full name, email address, and phone number, because if we are unable to contact you after you enroll, you may not receive the entrance link to the Telegram group. So that's very important that we have to maintain open lines of communication. Don't enter any fake information. Don't play secret agent man. Don't play secret agent woman. None of us are that, okay? We are all people who are trying to help each other understand what's really going on in our world and the tyranny that is developing and the subsequent loss of freedom, all based on people not truly understanding true morality and aligning their life actions with it. So, no secret agent men, women, role-playing games. Please enter your correct and up-to-date information, so if we need to contact you, that's easy for us to do. And then after you make your enrollment donation, you'll receive a PDF which will have all the next steps to follow. Internet enrollment for the How to Become the True Media 2024 seminar will end on July 4th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So you have all day through the 4th of July to enroll. If you want to enroll by check or money order, I must receive the check or money order for enrollment by July 1st, 2024. It must arrive here. If it doesn't arrive here by July 1st, then that's when I cut off enrollments through check or money order, because then they have to get cleared and I have to send all the information manually. So, please, if you are going to enroll by check or money order, when enrollment begins, July 1st is the cutoff date for that. If you have any questions about any of that, you can email info@howtobecomethitruemedia. And that is that. For more information, visit howtobecomethitruemedia.com. Once again, the seminar's website is howtobecomethitruemedia.com. I'm going to go back over to my slides. The One Great Work Network, still running strong at the website onegreatworknetwork.com. Over 70 phenomenal content creators. We will be adding even more shortly. Visit onegreatworknetwork.com and please not only take in the great content that is up there on all of the individual content creators' pages, but please do support the content creators by making personal donations to them directly. That's what I am highlighting their work for. I'm highlighting their work to get their message out there, and I'm highlighting it to help get them resources that they need to continue doing the one great work of ending slavery on this planet. So check it out at onegreatworknetwork.com. Don't Tread on Philly happy hour takes place on the second Wednesday of every month, always free to attend. It's a social meetup for people who are concerned about the loss of human freedom. This takes place the second Wednesday of the month, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Dive Bar, 947 East Passyunk Avenue in South Philadelphia. If you're in the area, come on out and join us. It's always a good time, always great, lively discussions, always free to attend. Check it out. Don'tTreadOnPhilly.com or go to the Don't Tread on Philly Facebook page where the event calendar can always be found. Inquire and Inspire documentary movie nights takes place on the third Thursday of every month, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Arnold's Family Fun Center in Oaks, Pennsylvania, out here in my neck of the woods in the suburbs of Philadelphia. If you're in the area, come on out for these documentary nights. They're always absolutely enlightening. This is hosted by Jeff Hippoff, another content creator of the One Great Work Network. Always chooses very enlightening documentary films to screen. For more information, visit the website inquireandinspire.com. The What on Earth is Happening IPFS project is still ongoing. I will be getting to the management of these nodes and adding more nodes into this project. For more information, visit whatonearthishappening.com/IPFS for the technical details and requirements. To call into What on Earth is Happening via Telegram, visit whatonearthishappening.com/call. As always, I'm going to continue presenting the information here today. We probably will not get to calls. Again, I may call an audible some weeks and say, I don't want to present all show. I may just go to calls. So it could happen. But in general, my plan is to present until I'm finished the slides for this extended presentation, and then we'll do many call-in shows. I'm going to say minimum 3. We may do more call-in shows than that, but I'm going to say there will be a minimum as an addendum to this extended presentation series on Unholy Feminine. We'll do a minimum of 3 whole, all 3-hour call-in shows. The ARC 2.0 offer still on the table in perpetuity here at What on Earth is Happening. The ARC offer will be offered as long as I'm able to do it. The ARC is called the Amazing Repository of Knowledge. It is a 2 terabyte storage device for a computer that you will purchase for yourself and then send it to me. Send me the empty storage device, 2 terabytes. I will fill it up with over 26,000 audio files, over 9,500 digital books, and over 3,400 digital videos, all that are able to be browsed and played on your local computer, on any computer platform, whether it be Windows, Mac, Linux. I format the drive in a way that it's playable on all platforms, and all of the data is there offline. With no internet connection required, you can view and study this data at your convenience. It is from my own personal archive of data that I've gathered over many, many years. And the offer is available at whatonearthishappening.com/ARK, A-R-K. There are stringent shipping requirements that is done to protect your property, first and foremost. It is also done to be respectful of my time and my energy and my schedule. So please do take the shipping directions seriously. If you follow them, this process will be cake. It'll be as easy peasy. Okay? If you don't follow them, problems will develop and they will manifest both for myself and for your property, which we don't want to see happen. We want this process to go smoothly. So if you just simply follow the shipping instructions, everything will go very smoothly. I've encountered every single possible problem that could ever go wrong during this process of round-trip shipping of a device. And I've smoothed it out to the point where if you follow those directions, it will go extremely smoothly and there will be no problems. And that's not to say that sometimes things get mistreated during handling. Sometimes that's unavoidable. You know, we know not everyone takes their job very seriously, although most of the time I gotta say these guys are doing a good job. It's been rare when there's been damage to ARC drives recently. It does still occasionally happen. And what I'm going to say and recommend, just briefly to talk about the ARC for a moment, is if you use a solid state drive, which is the emerging standard. I mean, it really has been for many years, if you want to be technical, by anybody really truly involved in the computing industry in any capacity. No one really buys hard drives anymore with moving components. Solid state has been the de facto industry standard. So I'm going to really recommend for people taking me up on the ARC offer, even if it's a little bit more expensive, and it will be. Not going to lie, a solid-state drive is still more expensive than a regular standard, magnetic platter moving part hard drive, but it's far more reliable, it's far more robust during shipping, and is much less likely to be damaged during round-trip transit. So if you can afford it, get a solid state drive for the Ark. You will not be disappointed in its performance. You will not be disappointed in its ability to get to that data and play it back quickly. And you will definitely not be disappointed in the sense that it is robust enough to survive round-trip shipping probably many times over. Not to say that a standard hard drive, while cheaper, will probably make the trip just fine. Okay, but I'm encouraging people, go ahead and if you can afford it, take the Ark offer up on a solid state drive, and you'll get the state-of-the-art performance that comes with those type of storage devices. Just wanted to put that out there. What on earth is happening? Donation gifts is the way that you can get all hard copies of my work over the years in the form of my presentations on flash drives or DVDs, or all of my work on the One Great Work Collection solid state drive. All offered here at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com, along with many other items, promotional items like men's and women's t-shirts, coasters, stickers, buttons, keychains, you name it. All up at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. I want to show you the technology donation section, which is the way that we crowdsource fund items that are too expensive for one person to just donate. Okay? People have been very generous in their technology donations over the years, and this is one way that we do crowdsource technology donations. So at What on Earth is Happening, donation gifts, the gifts area of my website, you can click on technology donation in the categories, and then you could click the item that we are looking to crowdsource fund. So if you click that, it'll take you to that page, and there you are able to select a donation amount. And you could select $50 increments, anywhere from $50 to $500. And over time, people will do this, and we will have enough donations in order to pick up the Mac Studio that I require for my new creative computer and office computer. We got a Mac Studio for both the One Great Work Network, FTP and video server, and we got enough money for the Mac Studio that is actively being used to broadcast this show right now in the studio section of What on Earth is Happening. This final Mac Studio that I really want to pick up is for my own creative computer, because I'm using an aging Intel-based iMac, and I would like to update that because it's starting to act pretty slow and not necessarily terrible performance capacity, but it's beginning to show its age. And at that point, I think it's time for someone like myself, who is a content creator producing content on a weekly capacity, to certainly update to a more modern Mac that has the newer Apple Silicon processors inside, the SoC-based processors that Apple has been offering for a couple of years now. So I've waited on my own personal computer before making that transition from Intel to Apple Silicon, but I think the time is right. We have raised a total of $3,750. So we are over the halfway mark out of the $6,000 required. So we still require $2,250 to get to our donation goal. If you can, please do make a donation to crowdsource fund this technology donation of a Mac Studio for my own new personal computer for both creative work and the office duties that I have on a weekly basis. So that is the gifts.whatonearthishappening.com area of my website. If instead you would prefer to make a straight donation to support the What on Earth is Happening, One Great Work Network, and how to become the true media causes, you can visit whatonearthishappening.com/donate. All of the ways that I accept donations in donation gifts are methods that you can use to donate straight to the What on Earth is Happening cause here on this page, including our Amazon wish list donation, which is for smaller technical items that it's okay for one person to donate for. I don't put any of the larger items that are usually around, I will cap that at around $500, sometimes a little bit more depending on the item. But anything more than that will probably go into the crowdsource fund donations on gifts. Thank you to everyone who picked up items listed at our Amazon wish list. I want to send a very sincere thank you out to the generous donators who donated the items recently. There are no items that we currently require on that list. All of them have been donated. That is absolutely amazing and humbling to me. I want to thank everyone who generously donated toward that wish list. We've received those items in good shape, and they really help the cause here at What on Earth is Happening when a new technical item is needed. So thank you so much to everyone who made that happen. That's all my housekeeping announcements for today. Let's jump into our material. Okay. So we have been going through the Unholy Feminine, Neo-Feminism, and the Satanic Epi-Eugenics Agenda extended and revisited presentation. This is part 6 out of I don't know how many. We will take it as it comes and see where it leads. I'm going to attempt to deliver this material in as detailed of a way as to make it really sink in and for people to really understand what is happening in this type of social engineering that has been being done to the human population, not only for decades, but for centuries and even millennia. So last week we left off on the concept that the social engineers want particularly women, but really everyone in society, to be completely motivated. They want their behaviors motivated entirely by the need for security. And as I was talking about when we ran out of time last week, security is actually an illusion. This is actually something that does not really truly exist in nature, in the natural world. It doesn't even exist in our artificially created environment that we live in now. Anything could happen at any moment. You could step off a curb and get hit by a car. You could be struck by lightning. There could be any kind of a natural disaster. With all of the horrific things that are in the alleged vaccines and the medical system today, people can get all kinds of toxic problems in their nervous system, in their central nervous system, in their hearts, in their arteries, and people could really drop at any given time. I mean, at this point, we really have to be thankful for any amount of time that we're given based on all the toxicity and poison that is surrounding us and in our environment. So there's no such thing as security. This is sold to us as something to be desired, and it's an illusion. And yeah, everybody likes to be relatively safe, relatively comfortable. Nobody is really an exception to that. I don't want to live in an alley. I don't want to live in a cardboard box in an alley. Who would? Who would desire that condition? And the other thing is that's not spiritual. It isn't spiritual to be super ascetic, right? Everyone wants to think spiritual people live as paupers. They live as poor people. They live in that cardboard box in the alley with no possessions. Who are you going to reach and influence in a situation like that where you're just trying to meet your daily survival needs? Let me tell you something. People who are teaching this stuff should get themselves into a position where they're at least, I'm not saying live a lavish lifestyle, don't twist and confuse my words. I'm saying get yourself into a position where you at least have the ability to do this in a comfortable capacity, where you're able to procure the resources that you require to do this at a decent level, and then put some thought, some energy into it, some aesthetics into it, make it look halfway decent, make it sound halfway decent, and you don't have to be perfect, folks. This is what we teach in How to Become the True Media, okay? So when it comes to procuring that at least modicum of safety, security, comfort, there's nothing wrong with that. That is not something that is immoral to do. That is something that we would be required to do if we're really going to give our best in an effort like this to present this type of information. That's common sense to me. So to the people who say, oh, you shouldn't have any extra resources or you shouldn't have any of all this type of equipment or that, it's like, whatever. More likely the people who are saying that have never really done it and don't know what's involved. Enroll in the How to Become the True Media seminar. You'll find out exactly what's involved. You'll find out what You have to be prepared for. You have to find out what you're going to need resource-wise. You'll find out the kind of things that go wrong. Let me tell you something, folks. When I deliver the How to Become the True Media seminar, it doesn't always go smoothly. There are technical problems. I make mistakes. I show people all of that. You have to be prepared for that. You have to expect that, okay? No one is perfect. People will see me making errors. They will see technical problems happen while I'm trying to do something, even in the course of the seminar. And then I show them what to do. You got to compose yourself. You have to think. What was the causal factor that led to this? The potential causal factors. Then you start troubleshooting calmly, and you go in a stepwise progression. You know, maybe at some point in the near future, or maybe the slightly distant future, we'll see. I might give an advanced version of How to Become the True Media for intermediate to advanced users, you know, during another time. And maybe I'll teach some technical troubleshooting, you know, stuff that, like, if you are even going to be an ancillary supporter of another content creator and you need to know how to troubleshoot computers, maybe I'll teach that. That's what was my forte when I was involved professionally in a corporate capacity in the technology environment, in the technology world. I did professional desktop troubleshooting for a while, and I was extremely good at my job. And that goes to show you how difficult it can be to manage even a medium operation like what I have going. You know, I say in the past, I run a rinky-dink operation or whatever. It's a very small operation. I'm going to say my operation is around medium-sized by a general gauging of, you know, how these types of operations go. It's outgrown small size, and it's, I would call it a lower medium operation, not a large medium operation, but a smaller medium-sized operation. Certainly not a large-scale op. But again, I try to treat it with respect and do the best that I can with the resources that I have. So just going to this idea, relating it to the Unholy Feminine presentation, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have a modicum of resources, a modicum of comfort to do this type of work. But this is what I'm talking about here in this presentation is every single waking moment of the day. They have people conditioned to think only of their own needs and only of themselves. They wake up thinking me, 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 me. They go through their day thinking me, 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 me. They fall asleep thinking me, 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 me. That's satanic mindset. That is the definition of what Satanism is only thinking of yourself all the time and never thinking outside of yourself in a wider way. That's the very definition of Satanism. And people, as yet, still don't understand that. So we were talking about them injecting this illusory desire to always have security. Okay? They want the inauthentic woman, as I've called their brainwashed, mind-controlled version of a woman, not what an authentic, genuine woman is and should be in our world. They want to create the false, inauthentic version of a woman that's going to help them accomplish their goal of worldwide human slavery. And that version of a woman, the inauthentic woman, would be largely motivated by the psychological desire for attachment and security. To the inauthentic woman, love is simply seen as a form of permanence and attachment and a means to an end to get certain resources and security, rather than a deep familial bond with another human being. And once again, I want to really clarify, and we're going to talk about this in detail later on. I really want to clarify what I mean by the familial bond versus the family. They are not the same. They would be, again, likened to mental gender, which is inside biological males and biological females, versus physical gender, which is the dichotomy between male sex and female sex, the actual biological genders. So you have to look at this concept of the familial or familial bond or familial dynamic, however we want to refer to it, as being the underlying foundational framework for the family unit that would sit on top of it. The base is the familial. The familial bond or dynamic is the base of what the family sits upon. The familial bond is the foundation. That's why I'm continuously reinforcing the notion throughout this extended presentation that the familial bond is what is the most important dynamic in society between men and women, which is why they want to create the psychological gender war. They want to create the socially engineered gender war between males and females in our society, because ultimately what they want to break down is that familial bond. If you break down that familial dynamic, you lead to the much easier breakdown of the family and the family unit. So, and that's what they want, because they want people atomized. They want people not as powerful because they don't have a cohesive bond between each other in society. They don't want that bond between men and women. They don't want that bond between parents and children. They don't want that bond between a human being and really anybody else, truly. They want people atomized, scattered, and less powerful because they're not bonded together like strong bonding in molecules, like carbon bonding. You know, they don't want that type of a strong, deep bond which builds a solid structure, as solid as diamond. That's what the carbon bond builds in the physical world. Well, the familial bond builds that psychologically and in a familial love capacity, which then extends to a wider love capacity, the agape form of love. So, they don't want that familial bond forging between the woman, who is unfortunately right now in our society largely the inauthentic woman that the social engineers have socially engineered and brainwashed. They don't want that deep familial bond forming between them and any other human beings, whether it be friends, partners, children, etc. Money and government are often perceived by the inauthentic woman as assurances of comfort, assurances of prosperity, assurances of long-term security. Let me say that again. Money and government are often perceived by the inauthentic woman as assurances of long-term comfort, prosperity, and security, when in fact they're really the exact opposite. They're putting people into bondage. They're putting them into a prison society. They're putting them into psychological imprisonment. They're putting them into physical imprisonment. And ultimately, this is ultimately about destruction of the soul. It's spiritual imprisonment. So think about it. Just think about the social dynamic. Think about the social engineering aspect of this, folks. If you are going to brainwash an entire society and you know the men and the children are going to be influenced by the women that they are around, because that is the first and deepest familial bond, the bond with the mother, okay, then you have to get to the woman's mind and influence it in a way toward what is going to lead to your end goal societally, what the Satanists, what the social engineers, what the globalists want. They want everybody dependent. They don't want interdependency. They don't want strong familial bonds building a stronger society. They want people unfit. They want them unhealthy, mentally, physically, spiritually. They want them weakened in every conceivable way. And so you're going to start by mentally breaking them down and getting them to think that the things that are going to actually enslave them the most are the things that are going to liberate them the most and are going to bring them the things that they say they want, when in fact that dynamic is completely turned upside down and it's satanically inverted. And what you're actually making them want is the thing that leads them further and faster into their own enslavement. That's the genius of the Satanist plan. That's the genius of the social engineers of our world. Once again, I tell people if I met them, I wouldn't try to put a knife to their throat. I wouldn't draw a gun on them and put a bullet in their head. I would extend my hand and say, absolutely, unbelievably well done, sir or ma'am. That's what I would do. And I'm serious. I'm not even joking around. I'm absolutely serious. If I met some of the top level social engineers, all I could do, I don't respect them as a human being. But I certainly respect them as an opponent. They're evil. They're psychopathic. They're the worst kind of human being, if you even want to refer to them as a human being. They're the worst kind of predator. But I would extend them my hand as a gesture of respect between opponents, because I respect what they're capable of doing, because I know that they know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to get the job done, and they're doing it. So I'm not joking around when I say that. It's not like, oh, haha, Mark would shake hands with the Satanists. I would. And I would tell them, you guys know what you're doing. And you tried to tell me that years and years ago, and I wouldn't listen to what you told me about how really badly screwed up you have the minds of the people of this entire planet. And now I understand. Now I know. And you didn't lie to me. You told me the exact truth about where the dynamic is actually at. And I didn't want to listen because I was a naive young punk at the time and thought that I knew better about where people are actually at in their hearts and minds. And I was wrong. I was wrong. There it is. See, it's not so hard, folks. It's able to be done. You can acknowledge when you're wrong. That's a hard, bitter pill to swallow for me, let me tell you, because I really wanted to believe the people were better than they are. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, I was unimaginably wrong. And yet, I've still continued to do this for the past 17 years because I want to see people come up out of that condition because I believe they are at least capable of doing it. I believe the capacity for coming up in consciousness and out of the mind-controlled conditions that people are in is possible. I didn't say it will happen. People have to will it for it to happen. But it is possible. It can be very difficult depending on where people are at and how badly their brains have actually been physically damaged by the pathways that they've sent it down and locked it into. But the brain itself is plastic, meaning it is capable of being flexible and returning to different states and being pushed into new states of consciousness and functionality. So, what does the social engineer want to do? They want to get the inauthentic woman who is going to ultimately direct the rest of society hooked on the idea, the perception of money and government as assurances of comfort, prosperity, and security. The primary desire for financial security as a resource for safety can be most readily seen in our culture in the most frequently asked question by a woman to a man when first meeting, which is, undisputably, what do you do for a living? In our culture, particularly in Western culture, the very first question, once pleasant niceties are exchanged, some nice pleasantries get exchanged between a man and a woman in a social setting, is the woman saying to the man, what do you do? Meaning, what's your job? What do you do for a living? Because the very first thing on her mind is if there is any possible potential for us in the future to have any type of a familial bond, a relationship dynamic, etc., she wants to know how much money the man is making because her first desire mentally is for the security that money does in the short term in our artificially induced and created society bring stability-wise in a familial dynamic or a relationship. So think about that. Is that natural? Is that normal? Is that something that everyone would just normally do? Because I'll say that because there are some cultures still today on this planet where that is not done. So if you're going to say that's just completely based in genes or, quote, evolution or the natural progression, then why isn't it done in every single culture on Earth? There are some places where that is not the primary question. Overwhelmingly, in Western culture, it is. Make no mistake about it, let's not lie, that is the dynamic. Most places in the world that are dominated by Western culture and general Western value system, if you want to call it that, The very first question after pleasantries are exchanged that a woman may ask a man, they may ask where you're from first, maybe how old are you? That probably comes after. But in general, after basic greeting pleasantries are exchanged, the first question coming out of the woman's mouth, the inauthentic woman, which is almost the vast majority of women, especially in Western culture, is going to be, what do you do to make money? Ultimately, this desire for security is the desire for an illusion, since there is no such thing as true security as long as you live in physical reality, which we already talked about. There are always hidden dangers lurking. There are always things that you did not expect. There are always things you did not account for. There are always unknowns that may affect your health, that may affect your physical well-being. And let me tell you something, folks. Take nothing for granted about safety ever. Take nothing for granted about how much time you have. That's why don't wait. Start now. Put something good out to the world. Create something that is good, that teaches people. That's what we're here to do. We are here to create, to be a mini lowercase c creator in the image and likeness of the capital C creator, and put your own creations out into the world to help to enlighten humanity. So take nothing for granted and realize as long as you're living in the physical world, there are dangers, and the desire for security is ultimately the desire for something that is illusory. So let's move on. The search for security in a man with money, or the desire to be simply quote-unquote taken care of by someone else, is an integral part of the ego gratification, me, satanic mindset. Let me say that again. This is why the neo-feminism agenda and the idea that the man is there for security purpose, the man is there to have the woman be taken care of, the man is there for comfort and an easy lifestyle. This is the idea. This is the very essence of a satanic mindset, because this social engineering is satanic and is derived, it is formulated, and then it is executed by the globalist Satanists that ultimately run our society. They are dark occultists, they are Satanists, they are occult practitioners. And this is an occult agenda, specifically a satanic one. The idea that you are going to live by way of someone else is a satanic me mindset. And think about it. How much of that is taught to modern women? How much of that is absorbed by women in modern society? How many women, ratio-wise, percentage-wise, think that way, want that, think that's just the very first thing that they should be desiring and looking for and trying to attract? It is putting all of the moral aspects and qualities of a being on the back burner. And if ever, rarely looking at those things, certainly not putting them paramount and looking at them first. Instead, you're putting the wallet first. You're putting the bank account first. What if they make money selling weapons of mass destruction? What if they make money selling horrible, devastating to the health drugs in the modern big pharma system? Is that okay? What if they're completely gambling with people's money in the stock market or exchanges, or all kinds of betting systems that go on through, the shorting process of the market and other, financial machinations and manipulations? What if they're doing all of these immoral things? What if they're the biggest piece of crap on the planet? What if they're an order follower, which most people, even in those industries that I just mentioned, are? But then we can go even into deeper evil, the cult of ultimate evil, the order followers of our world. the military and the police, and specifically the police, which are the lowest order followers. You know, the ones that just live completely among the population and act as the house slaves of society, beating the other slaves until they comply. Imagine, most women wouldn't even care if that's the job, as long as they're being, quote, provided for, as long as they're being, quote, taken care of. Is that an authentic woman? Is that what an authentic woman seeks and desires? You know, I'm not necessarily saying you want to go court a bum in an alley. Let's face it, folks. Obviously, no one wants to live that way. But what I'm asking is this most women of today's society their primary thought process? You better damn well believe and accept that it is, because that's the truth. Sadly. Okay? Sadly, they're not looking at how moral a human being is. They're not even looking at how intelligent a human being is. They're first and foremost looking at how much money does that person make. And you tell me, who does that reflect on? And let me tell you, once again, that's primarily the biggest place where that functions and is deeply entrenched is in Western civilization. Because that's what they're targeting, because that's what's going to move all of human civilization toward the end goal, the agenda of the globalist Satanists that run things. So, is that normal? Is that natural? No, it is not. It is socially conditioned. It is socially engineered. Again, this idea that, and you know who it murders me the most, folks? I want to just take a moment here and just tell you. In all of my years attempting to explain these particular dynamics here in this presentation, women have been the most responsive to it. I'm going to say that. I have gotten the best responses, the most respectful responses, the most deeply well thought out responses from females in our society. The worst responses to this presentation, the most resistant responses to this presentation have been men who have insistently and hard-headedly believe and continue to believe in the Darwinian notion that the way things are in modern human culture today on our planet right now, in the modern day, is completely influenced by Darwin's idea of macrobiological evolutionary process, which, number one, does not work the way Darwin said that it worked. And again, this presentation is not to go into a debunk of that or even explore that in depth, okay? I've done enough research on my own to say that Darwin's theories were highly suspect and flawed and used simply to continue to promote eugenics in our world. Not borne out by the fossil record in any level of detail whatsoever, which Darwin himself insisted that it must for it to bear any true weight. That evidence has never truly been provided for in a scientifically scrutinized capacity. That being said, I'm not a subscriber to Darwinian evolutionary theory. I do believe in human evolutionary process that takes place at a macrobiological level at some point and then is handed off epigenetically and takes place in mental processes to progress as an evolution in consciousness. Then it could develop into anything, even to go beyond the body, even to go beyond the physical. That's where epigenetics can ultimately take us. So, I want people to deeply understand that it is not just the way things are, and it is not just millions of years of evolution that led to people behaving like this. If you believe that, you are already brainwashed. You are already brainwashed by an agenda that was laid out 150 or more years ago by a person who was deeply connected to eugenicists, family-wise, and the eugenicists of the extended family of Darwin and Galton, etc., brought these ideas into their agenda because they fit them like a hand in a glove. And if you don't understand that and you haven't done that homework, I actually feel sorry for you as an adult human being, because it really means you're kind of dumb and you really haven't put yourself into the position where you're actually doing the required homework. You haven't read the right books on the topic. You haven't read the right analyses on the topic. You've kind of accepted what the mainstream media and modern government grant money funded alleged science, which is scientism, has crammed down your throat for the past 150 years, for the better part of the last 15 decades. Okay? And you really need to play catch up. Okay? As I said, you're not privy to the new shit, man, as the dude would say. Okay? Get privy to the new shit and get up to date and catch up with the rest of us who are actually able to think in a critical capacity regarding the new scientific unfolding and developments in modern cutting-edge sciences that take consciousness into account and understand the entire realm of epigenetics, especially social engineering dynamics within that subset of epigenetics. And please get out of this notion that genes control everything and that it's always that's just normal human evolution. What it tells me is you know not a goddamn thing about mind control. You don't know anything about how our deepest inward aspects of the human psyche can be completely twisted, can be completely deceived, can be completely directed and steered if someone really knows how to do that societally. And let me tell you something, that's who these Satanists are. They're a priest class of that level of influence and power. And nobody should take them non-seriously. Nobody should think they're a joke. Nobody should think they don't have that level of power, because they do, and more. And let me tell you something. The people that they're absolutely, metaphorically, beating their heads to mush with a goddamn hammer are men when it comes to this very topic. Because I hear it from dumbass men all the time saying, women are like that because that's just how biological evolution has progressed with the female over the last 10,000 years. You're a fucking moron is what you are. Okay? You're an absolute fucking childlike moron, because the statement absolutely betrays you and shows how little reading you've actually done. It shows you've cracked open on the origin of species, which is actually written in a racist capacity. You know, and I'm not one of these people to make everything woke and say it's all racist. I'm telling you, Darwin himself was, and he was formulating that like a pen man for the extended societies that he was involved with and around in a capacity of eugenics. And if you don't believe that, you're just a dumb motherfucker who hasn't done enough homework and you haven't done the required reading. This is where I get very upset with people that try to tell me my conclusions are incorrect, when as soon as their mouth opens, I can tell how ignorant they are and how little they've read. Because they don't have the grammar of the trivium process gathered and under their belt. So how could they possibly move on to the analysis of the material? Or even worse, put it out there into the world, or even worse than that, tell someone who has done that entire process ad infinitum that they're incorrect. No, I am not. I am correct. This is not conjecture. This is vetted. This is vetted with the true scientific methodology, the trivia method. Learn it, learn how to employ it in your life, and utilize it. And then maybe you'll bring your consciousness out of the shitter And you'll actually elevate your understanding to the required level to understand how the chess masters of our world think and the fucking number they're doing on you, boy. Let's get that clear and straight. Okay? So, to the men out there that do not want to hear this message because you want to think it's all just biological evolution, you're being led by the nose by your satanic overlord social engineering masters, and you're a punk bitch to them. You're punked, you're bitched, you're cucked. Let's get that straight, boy. Okay? And let me tell you something. They call you things far worse than I just did. They call you the dead, son. The dead. Because you're dead to them. I'm at least trying to still talk to you like you're alive. And try to impart some wisdom to your deadened mind. And get you to see what's right in front of your fucking face. To plainly see if you just open up your eyes and get the shit out of your ears. Okay? They already consider you dead. And so anything they do to you is fair game because they're not even doing it to a living being. They call you the dead. Okay? And you know what? Half of the time I tend to agree with them. So again, don't tell me this presentation targets women. I'm targeting everybody. I'm going to tell people as fairly and equally that they're a dumb bag of shit when they are. And I'll praise somebody when they've really learned it equally, men and women. When they really show some deep understanding and they're getting their minds elevated to the place that it has to be for them to understand the psychological tactics that are being used against them by the social engineer priest class. Then when they do understand that, I'll give them credit for it and I'll praise them equally, men and women alike. So let's get it straight. Favorites are not being played here. Okay? Very few want to see and admit the truth regarding that even the desire for security, the desire for a man with a lot of money so you have quote-unquote security, is satanic. That is the satanic socially engineered mindset itself, manifesting itself in the mindset of the inauthentic woman. Most do not want to see it admit the truth regarding that. Most will attribute this to Darwinian theory, biological process, when in fact this behavior is deeply ingrained social conditioning and social engineering. It is not the way things are naturally. It is a socially engineered, induced state of consciousness that is conducted and employed and deployed epigenetically through the human thought process by what media has been bombarding the brain since the person came out of the womb. And especially in those first developmental and formative years of human development from birth through 7 years of age, which is called the formative years of a child's mental development, and it is a hypnagogic state, which is a state of consciousness that exists in between waking and dreaming, which is the most suggestible state. It is similar. It is called hypnagogic because it is similar to hypnotic. Okay, it means it's going hypo means underneath. Okay, and then gnosis is the realm of knowledge, the conscious mind, the realm of knowing at a conscious level. So hypnosis means you're underneath the conscious mind at the subconscious layer of the mind, the most suggestible and programmable part of the human psyche, the hidden or occult part of the psyche, which is what we have to get into. We have to do the shadow work to dig down deep into those layers of human consciousness. It is the subconscious processes that largely are directing our behavior because we have not done any work to dig down to them, deal with them, and bring them up to the non-hidden, non-occulted, conscious layer of human consciousness, of the human psyche. That shadow work is what we have to learn how to do to come out of this satanic mindset and this brainwashed programming aspect of how most people currently think. And that includes all of the men out there who want to say, women are just like this naturally. It's totally perfectly normal and natural and part of their biological evolution to act like that. No, it isn't, moron. It's all social engineering. All of it. Not some of it. All of it. Blanket statement. Because, once again, there are cultures where women don't act like that. They're largely completely indigenous, remaining ancient indigenous cultures that are found fewer and further and further between in modern day society. So if you do encounter some civilizations like that, or read about them, or watch about them in a documentary film, you will see not all of them have this mentation. It is not just a naturally occurring dynamic within human consciousness. It is socially engineered. Sadly, most people desire a state of safe and secure slavery as opposed to one of dangerous freedom and its associated personal responsibility. Those are really our only choices, ladies and gentlemen. You can have safety. A perfectly safe society is a perfectly enslaved society. Let me say that again. You can have safety. To an extent, okay? Because once again, a comet could be on the way to the planet. We wouldn't even know it. It could hit the Earth next month, and everybody's gone. Could flash vaporize the atmosphere. But you can have a relative modicum of human safety in the physical domain right now, at least in the short term, but it's going to involve being completely enslaved. You want to live inside of a cage? You'll be safe. But you'll also be completely imprisoned. So let me say this again. Sadly, most people in our world today desire a state of safe and secure slavery rather than a state of dangerous freedom, yet and the associated personal responsibility that goes hand in hand with true human freedom, which is a dangerous condition. Because you have to allow the possibility for chaos. You have to allow the possibility for danger, for freedom to truly manifest in our world. There has to be the openness and possibility for danger and chaos even, for there to be true freedom present. It is a dangerous state. It involves the responsibility that goes with accepting potential danger. You have to accept a great deal of personal responsibility into your own life to be truly free. There is no such thing as true freedom without true personal responsibility. It's why the state of true freedom is so deeply psychologically feared by almost everybody, all of the inauthentic men and all of the inauthentic women of our society. They don't want the responsibility that comes hand in hand with the state of dangerous freedom. That's not total comfort. That's comfort that comes along with freedom and prosperity that comes along with freedom and the mental, physical, and spiritual evolution that comes along with true freedom. But it goes hand in hand. It is partnered. It is paired. It is wed to the true personal responsibility that must, by definition, always go hand in hand with true and dangerous freedom. Most men are also in this manipulated mindset. I'm going to keep reminding the men out there. This presentation is not just for women. As a matter of fact, one could argue it's even more for men. Okay? Because they think so many things about the behavior of women in the modern society, about the inauthentic women, are just biological processes. And they never look behind the curtain. They never look into the subconscious aspects, into the occult aspects, and the occult dynamics of how social engineering works. They're afraid to look at those things because then you know it would reveal to all those inauthentic men out there how you're brainwashed, how you're manipulated, how you're being robbed of your birthrights of freedom, how you're cucked out. They don't want to look at those things. They want to believe, oh, I'm some real man, when they're an authentic bitch punk is what they are. They're an inauthentic bitch punk calling themselves a man, and you don't even know the definition of the word, boy. You're a bitched out cuck put into that state of consciousness by the satanic social engineer priest class, who you'll never meet, who you'll never know, who you don't even know how they think, and they got you. They got you by the non-existent balls that you think you have when you have none. They already got you, boy. You got is what happened, to put it in street terms. Okay? So, I'm going to keep going back and harping on the guys in this presentation, because let me tell you something. It's one of the reasons I re-delivered this presentation. Because I realize men don't want to look at this content. They don't want to realize it's true. They don't want to realize all the satanic conditioning that not only the inauthentic women in our society have undergone and are currently ensnared by, but they don't want to understand how their mindset is also captured by it. The realization that death lurks around every corner in our reality is the state of reality that the authentic man and the authentic woman live in at all times and places. Let me say that again. The realization that death could lurk around every and any corner is the state of reality, true, objective reality, that the authentic human being lives in at all times and places. And they don't fear that. They're not driven and motivated by the desire to always escape that reality. They accept it. They learn it, that it's the case. They can do what they need to mitigate that, to continue to function and have the requirements and resources that they need. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they don't live in fear. The fear of death is the beginning of all forms of slavery. The fear of death is the beginning of all forms of human slavery. Let's move on to the next slide. And again, my little meme there that I put there is, this is the life of most modern people. They have the proverbial carrot dangling on the stick in front of them to move them forward, and instead of a carrot, it's a pile of cash, and they're running headlong into the grave. And that's most people's lives. And it's not a life at all. It's pathetic. That is the definition of pathetic. Okay? And that's where most people are at in our society. And they've been put into that state. So let me ask you a question. Is that normal and natural? Is that Darwin theory, biological evolution? Tell me, is that not how most men behave in society today? Would you not say that that's a perfect assessment of where most men in our society are at? This is why men don't want to understand the social engineering that's done to women, because then they got to look at the social engineering that's done to them and realize you're just in as just of a shitty position that you find yourself as the modern inauthentic woman. And so they want to make up shit. Like this is just the natural state. This is just how women are. This is just their nature. When it shows you know nothing about human nature. Because once again, if you believe human nature is good or bad, you don't understand social engineering. You don't understand the true nature of a human being. And yes, a human being does have a nature. Does a computer have a nature? Does a microphone have a nature? Does a glass have a nature? Yes. They are functional things that are there with a purpose, for a reason. They're not just random things. A computer computes. It processes information. A microphone picks up and it transits sound from one place to another. A glass holds liquid. This is not rocket science, folks. People also do have a nature. The answer is not people don't have a nature. The answer is the nature of a human being is not good or evil. The nature of a human being is that a human being is programmable through information. Let me say this again, because I want to clarify this, because I think people still aren't getting it. Okay? If people got it, they would be able to explain it back to me. And I would see explanations of this from other people to other people. When I go on social media, when I go online, when I look at people's presentations, and some do. I don't want to make a blanket statement and say no one understands this. Most do not understand it, folks. It's not a blanket statement, but it's one of those generalizations. That it's the overwhelming vast majority are still in this condition. They do not understand what I'm saying here. That human beings do have a nature, but the traditional things that people have argued about over and over, is the nature of humanity good? Is the nature of humanity evil? They don't get the dynamic. It's all about information that goes into the mind that is going to program the body computer of the human being and their psyche, and is going to highly influence their behavior toward a particular way of manifesting in the world, and then creating the external circumstances that we then must live within. That's how our reality is built and manifested. We take in information. We process the information. It comes out as our decision-making thoughts. Then we act in the world based upon that decision-making process that we did based on the information that we took in. And then we act in the world, and then the world becomes what we are experiencing collectively in the aggregate through that behavior. If the quality of the behavior is good, we have order, freedom, prosperity, etc. If the quality of behavior is bad, we have slavery, chaos, and death. It's not rocket science, folks. This is the basis of the real laws of attraction, the true occult laws of attraction. So, we have to understand that if we want to change what we're experiencing, you don't do that in the last step. You're not going to just change the behavior. In order to change the behavior, you have to change the decision-making processes that go on in step number 2 of the trivium. And in order to change the decision-making processes, you have to reprogram the computer up here with different information, with higher quality content, with higher quality data, with higher quality information. Because if really good things go in, the processing is legitimate and it comes out very well, and then the behavior that we then enact onto the screen of life that manifests as the current human condition is also going to be good quality. Quality goes in, quality comes out. If garbage goes in, garbage comes out on the screen of life. Like a computer. You program it, well, the program's going to execute. It's going to do exactly what it needs. You're going to have a good output to the screen. If garbage programming goes into it, it doesn't process properly. Garbage comes out on the screen. That's the same way it works with a human being. We put good content and programming here. The processing is going to be perfect. We're going to understand what needs to be done. We're going to then enact it and align our behavior to that. And then good things follow on the screen called life. The reverse happens and garbage goes in, well then garbage is going to come out on the screen of life. Once again, not rocket science, folks, but probably a handful of human beings on this planet could actually explain it to somebody. They're not clear on how it works, okay? And I'm going to keep harping on men in particular on this because they've actually been more resistant than women who have seen this content. Let's move on. This is all about putting people into that mindset, is all about getting them to think about value in a certain way. The very conceptual thought of what is valuable to someone is one of the things that is the most deeply socially engineered in our society. We have to stop equating money with true value. Money is not true value. Money is, in the form that we use it in the Western civilization, a form of fiat currency, which means that someone just makes it up out of thin air and decrees it to exist. It's not even a natural thing physically. And then we believe in it. So the only place that it has any actual power is in the belief system of people who say that it exists and believe that it exists. And then we are attaching a perceptual idea of value to it, because we say in our current state or condition of existence, we require that to have any power in the world, to be able to do things, because everything is associated with money, having resources to buy a computer, a microphone, food, etc. It's required to do that because of the way society is currently set up by the very people who set it up. Okay? The requirement does not exist in nature. It exists in the artificial construct of modern human society. See, you have to understand first and foremost that money is not naturally occurring. It's an invented conceptual idea. Everything in my work, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to, again, emphasize this and even harp on it a little bit, because I don't think it's still fully integrated and understood. Otherwise, I wouldn't go and revisit these topics. Okay? It's still not grasped by the vast majority of people who have heard my work. The entirety of the body of my work with What on Earth is Happening, everything that I've done, the main crux is about the difference between the natural versus the artificial. And I'm trying to get people's minds out of deep association and identity latch. It's a latching of identity. That's how deeply profound and powerful the mindset is that people are in, that they are brainwashed into. They are latching on to the artificial construct and believing it to be real, believing it to be inherent, believing it to be intrinsic. These things, truth, anchored, objective reality, something that exists inherently in the natural domain, is not something that is a conceptual, constructural idea. And the very concept of money is a conceptual, constructural idea to act as a medium between things that do exist in the natural domain. The body of my work is about the delineation between the natural versus the artificial or the constructural. I want people to really deeply consider and understand that, because the very first thing that we have to understand is if you're equating money with value, you are equating the artificial with something that then you are even imbuing with more artificiality. You're saying this completely illusory artificial thing that's all constructural in its makeup and doesn't really exist in nature, I'm going to actually associate that with something that does have true natural and intrinsic importance, which is a value system. And if money is the root of people's value system, that equates with making it your truth. That equates with making it your identity. And that's what leads to all forms of evil in the world, which is why the quote biblically is not money is the root of all evil. It is the love of money is the root of all evil. Look at this as the attachment to money is the root of all evil. Look at it as equating money with true value is the root of all evil. Word it like that and you'll understand the heart and the spirit of the message. The saying is not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. Making money the thing that you think about, that you're attached to, that you're identified with, that you love. That's the root of all evil, because then people become a person that do evil things for the paycheck that they receive, or they condone the doing of evil things for the paycheck that is received and what's done with that paycheck. See, that's why they want to continue to have that artificial constructural money coming in, because they equate it with a value system. They equate it with what they can do in the world as a result of having it. Okay? They equate it with their own identity. And let me tell you something, folks, that's loving it. That is associating it with everything that you hold true and hold dear. And that's what real love is supposed to be. And this is completely satanically inverting that process of what real love is supposed to be, turning it on its head and making it all about resources that aren't even really natural. They're illusory and constructural. And they are artificially created and they are artificially propagated. They don't exist in the natural world. Real intrinsic value, first and foremost, comes from the truth. Secondly, comes from principles and value. Then it moves down into people, the physical people themselves. Then it moves down into, their potential characteristics and personality traits. After that, it moves into the physical. And the first thing is air. Is you're going to live the least with no air. Okay? That's the thing that has to be present in abundant qualities is breathable air. Number 2 in the physical domain would be drinkable water. Number 3 in the physical domain, edible food. Number 4 in the physical domain, the ability to shelter yourself from the elements and survive physically. Then tools and the ability to keep those things. Shelter yourself, clothe yourself, and then the tools to manipulate the physical world to the extent that you are able and keep the things that you have by using technology as weaponry. And not have it just completely stolen by people who didn't produce or do any work to create that value. That's the true Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay? And if you really understand that and you understand what has intrinsic value, what is injected and inflated with artificiality and an artificial concept of value constructurally and ideologically, then you understand false value versus true natural value. So the inauthentic woman is socially engineered to perceive money as the primary value system in human life, hence to then try to attract and go after the man with money, the often and almost always inauthentic man, leading an inauthentic lifestyle who is not being rewarded for anything that is, in 99.9% of the cases, that anything that is moral or of true value in society, but is doing something to receive a paycheck like some trained animal or a wind-up toy soldier, and often doing things that are immoral and completely, against natural law. And most women, the inauthentic form of women, will just see that as perfectly fine and acceptable trade-off for the comfort that they'll receive because of those resources coming in. And that's the problem. That's where the social engineering comes in. This is not about wanting to provide for children, wanting to have a safe environment for children. This is all socially engineered to get them to perceive the money as a true form of value instead of a false, illusory value system. They don't want people to see it for what it is. They want them to desire it and love it. And that is how they then do evil and condone evil. Because the love for that artificially created constructural idea that is not part of the nature of the creator then leads them into doing destructive and evil behavior and condoning destructive and evil behavior to be continued to be done. That is why how many women societally, how many will openly come out and say government's a terrible evil and should be abolished? And I'm not saying there aren't many women in the truth and freedom movement that understand that. I'm saying it's still societally few and far between if we take humanity as a whole, because most of them are attached with the idea, if government goes away, and then look out into society, how many men are going to behave in a truly moral capacity? Well, that's the only thing keeping them back from doing, coercive things and things that are violent and things like rape, etc. That's their mindset. It's all driven by protection. It's all driven by safety. And it's all driven by, if I find a man with a lot of money, that's resources to do whatever I want to do in life, whatever we want to do in life, to have a relative degree of safety, to raise a family, etc. And once again, I'm not saying that it's a terrible thing to think to want to have those things in the degree that we require them to be able to actively do those things, forge a familial bond, have a family, provide a relative modicum of safety for a family, etc. That doesn't mean those things are evil. I'm saying that the social engineering that is conducted to put people into the mindset that this is first and foremost the primary aspect of importance when it comes to money. And that's the value system that has to be there before morality is there. See, if women were asking the question, what do you do for a living? To answer the question deep down in their mind, is the person's job a moral one? Instead of how much money do they make? Then it would be a valid question. I want to know, the only reason I want to know what somebody is doing in society is because I want to know if they're in right livelihood or not. Most women are never thinking about right livelihood. If somebody says, oh, I'm a well-paid, high-ranking member of the pharmaceutical industry, most women would think that person's making a whole lot of money and they don't have to worry about money ever. They're not thinking, how many people have already died as a result of the poison that you guys push? You see the difference? Looking at is someone within right livelihood versus how much money do they make? Because plenty of people make a ton of money and they're nowhere near in right livelihood. And some people are paupers, but what they're doing is very moral and they are in right livelihood. You see, that's the difference in the nature of asking that question. And most people, they're on the wrong side of that equation, and they're asking it only to determine how much money do you make so we can live in relative comfort if we decide that we are going to forge a relationship and live together. This general mindset postulates that something is only worth doing if money is being made by doing it. Is that the only measure of value? If no money can be made, does that not mean that true value is being generated? If something is truly worthwhile and beneficial to human beings and human society, can someone not do something that is incredibly valuable, truly in the natural world, and not be compensated monetarily for it? Let me tell you something, folks. Most of the tens of thousands of hours that I have spent creating and presenting this material, okay, is not monetarily rewarded. It's nice when it is, but the overwhelming majority of the time, I'm not being compensated for what I do. Not in any sense that I would say is truly equitable and balanced. It's way more free work is being done than is what is being compensated for monetarily. Okay? That's not even a factor in my mind. It has to be somewhat of a factor because if I have no resources, I can't continue doing this because I can't pay for the things that I need to pay to continue to do this, you know? So there is some aspect where, yes, resources have to flow, but that's not the determining factor of value. Value is how many minds are being changed for the better. Value is how many more people are coming out of an immoral condition of consciousness and moving toward a moral condition of consciousness and moral alignment with natural law and true morality in the world. That's the real value. You know, like I said, while I'm not, rich by any stretch of the imagination, I have what I require to continue to do this work. If it doesn't stay at the level that it is and it slips down and people don't order things from gifts or, order art drives or provide, voluntary donations or take the How to Become the True Media seminar, I wouldn't be able to continue doing what I do. Obviously, there's going to be a certain amount of physical resources required to do this type of work. If it did slip into something really bad where I wasn't bringing in the necessary resources, I'd have to cut the operation back very significantly. Probably sell equipment, sell computers, not do all the operations that I do, maybe move back to an audio podcast only. Lots of things could downscale if people don't show the value, the appreciation for the value that I'm attempting to put out there into the world. See, that's the driving dynamic. If you're putting out real value into the world, people are going to see that. They're going to appreciate it because it's helping them to change for the better. It's helping all of society to change for the better. And then they're going to recognize that value. And then they'll contribute more resources, whether in the form of technology, money, help, etc. That's how real value works in the natural world. Okay, whether I'm receiving real value in the form of assistance and help, whether I'm receiving the artificial form of it, which I can translate back to the real form of it, when it comes to bringing in monetary resources to buy the things that I need, it's a cycle that you can keep going back and forth between the artificial and the natural, by taking the artificial money, getting the things you need, converting it back to real value and putting it out there into the world through communicating principles and truth. So in reality, the mindset is telling them satanically, it's satanic inversion, that it's only worth doing if the artificial form of money, the fiat currency, is being made in the process. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. As I just explained, you could be making a whole lot of artificial fiat crap dollars, and you could be harming society irreparably, and you could be making no money whatsoever and putting out genuine, authentic, natural value out into human society. This is one of the primary reasons that art, music, poetry, and especially philosophy, one of the only two ways that human beings really ever solve problems, through technology and through philosophy. Technology solves physical problems, philosophy solves mental and spiritual problems. This is one of the reasons art, music, poetry, and especially philosophy are so drastically de-emphasized in modern society. If you think about it, if you tell someone that you're potentially looking at relationship-wise, the woman asks, "What do you do?" And someone says, "I study occult philosophy." They're going to mostly look back at you like, "What am I hearing? This is insanity," because they're going to think, what possible kind of money could you possibly make with philosophy? That's like what parents tell their kids, don't go into school and learn that, because what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? You're going to change people from dumb, ignorant, immoral dullards and dolts into actual authentic human beings if you're applying it correctly and learning true philosophy. That's what you could do with philosophy. And most people will see that, throw that in the toilet bowl, because you're not going to make a whole lot of money doing something, quote unquote, with that. If you tell people, "Oh, I'm going to get involved in weapons manufacture and sale," in military industrial complex contractors, they would just see dollar signs in their minds endlessly, because it's like, that's probably generating billions of dollars in the modern world. Hundreds of billions, possibly trillions. Think about it. Think about where people's mindset is at, what they value, what they think is important, just by how they think about certain things. You could tell somebody you're going to be a doctor in the total big pharma, big medical industrial system, and people are like, "That's wonderful." You tell them, "I'm going to teach true philosophy to people to the extent that I can to help enlighten them and change their behavior for the positive." And people are like, "You ain't going to make any money doing that." That's the value system that is being socially engineered. That's what they want. Because the person who's making a whole lot of money doing something that's extremely immoral is perpetuating their enslavement system, which is the goal of their agenda. While the person who's going to go out and try to teach philosophy to ignorant, dullard human beings is not going to make a whole lot of money doing that. Which one's creating true value? Which one's going to receive false value in the form of fiat toilet paper as a result? This is the distinction and separating out the artificial from the natural. The natural is always the higher value system than the artificial one. Always. Blanket statement. So the social engineering to make art, music, poetry, and philosophy completely de-emphasized in our society, it also tries to make people frown upon it as something you only choose to do if you want to starve. Oh, go and be an artist. You'll be a starving artist. You want to create art, music, and poetry, you'll live your life as a starving artist. That's a great career path to choose if you want to starve. How many times have people heard that? But they'll never look at it as, oh, are you going to do this in a allegorical way to teach people, to put real value out into society, to help truly influence human thought and behavior for the positive, so that we come out of the condition of human slavery as a species? No, they're not looking at that. They're just looking at it from the system of value of the artificial fiat currency. And how many of those units of that artificial currency will be going into your paycheck account, into your bank account, you know? So this is the value system being taught, especially to young women, and bringing them up into that inauthentic mindset, that socially engineered mindset that is a mindset of Satanism. This is inculcation into the satanic religion at a lower mental and psychological level than the chess masters who are the social engineers directing the whole process at the top of that pyramidal structure of occult control. You have to put people into your mindset at a far lower, less detailed level so that they will continue to do your bidding and believe what you would have them believe, so that they can never come out from under your control. That's where the bulk of the human population is at. They're at that lowest level of that pyramid, that occult pyramid of ignorance. And they've been put into what I call mini-me Satanism, or what I've called in a recent presentation, de facto Satanism. Satanism that operates according to how you think, and ultimately, because of how you think, how you behave. De facto in Latin means of deeds. In your deeds, by your deeds. This is the concept biblically. By your deeds, you will know the evildoers. By their deeds, you will know the doers of good. Know people by their deeds, what they do, not by what they say. People can say anything and do something completely different. Okay, so knowing them by their deeds means you're looking at how they behave in a de facto capacity, which means in their behavior. All right, so in their behavior, they are socially engineering, especially young women, to be inculcated into a lower level variant of the satanic mentality that the actual controllers have at the highest levels of the pyramidal control system of the occult world. They are giving people their mindset without the people knowing that they've been given a lower level version of the master's mindset. That's how the slavery system is perpetuated. They can't continue to control people who have come out of the satanic mindset. They can only control the minds of people who are still in the satanic mindset. And this is most of the world, unfortunately. They are still in the mindset of Satanism at a lower level than the occult masters really understand it at. They don't even know it's Satanism. Most people are in Satanism, in their mind, in their deeds. They are performing satanic ritual every single solitary day of their lives is a satanic ritual. It's an endless looping satanic ritual. And they don't even know that they're performing an endless looping satanic ritual in a satanic mindset. They think they're perfectly normal. They think how they think is perfect and behave is perfectly natural. And they don't even know that their mindset and their behaviors were given to them to identify, latch onto, and continue to do over and over and over again in an endlessly looping and repeated cycle by Satanists. They don't even understand that. And that's the hardest work that there is to do, is to try to explain what Satanism actually is, not what people insist on believing it to be. And I still to this day go on social media, I don't even know why I bother, just to see, is the understanding improving? Not a fucking bit. Not even a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. And can I tell you, that goes to the equation Not enough people are teaching people what it really is. I'm one of the only fucking people trying to teach people what Satanism really is, and it's not enough. It's not good enough. No matter how much effort I expend in my entire life to explain to people Satanism is not the worship of the Christian devil. It's thinking a certain way about yourself in the world and your relationship and behavior toward other people in the world in a completely selfish asshole way. And then what you're doing through your behaviors out into the world reflect your mindset and damage the world as a whole once a whole group of people, a whole aggregate of society starts thinking and behaving in that same self-destructive way. Believing that's how you get ahead. Believing that's how you prosper. Satanism inverts everything and teaches you that the ways that you are identifying as the ways to prosperity. It wants you to hold those false thoughts in your mind and continue to execute them in the world until you're in a complete position of slavery. That is the poison pill. That is being led down the garden path. That's what modern satanic ideology does. It teaches you, do these things and you'll have everything you want, when in fact, doing those things leads you directly into enslavement. Societally, worldwide, not just on an individual level, but on a complete aggregate societal level of the species. Okay? So, understand what it really is. Stop insisting that you know what it is. You don't know a thing about what it is if you're still identified with churchianity. Churchianity, the false forms of modern day Christianity, are going to tell you endlessly it's about worship. It's about, I'm not going to worship this God, I'm going to worship this God. Satanism has nothing to do with the concept of worship, fucking morons out there who insist that it does. You weren't in it, dumb dolt dumbass. Stop pretending that you know about this religion when you were never a part of it. Shit for brains. I'm tired of people who were never a part of Satanism telling me, a former priest within the satanic religion, that you know more about the religion that I was a fucking priest in than I do. You don't. You never did. I'm not going to be told my life wasn't lived the way I lived it. You want to know why I get so upset? Imagine you being a teacher in a fucking public school and somebody comes up to you in a bar and says, you never set foot in that fucking school when you taught there your whole fucking life. You know what the kids were like. You can name them by name. You know all the things that happened in the fucking walls of that school. And some jackass who never even lived in your city comes and sits next to you while you're eating dinner and says, you're a fucking liar. You were never in the places that you said you were in. You never set foot in that fucking school that you claim to have taught in your whole life. And you know that's a lie and wasn't true. You'd back fucking elbow that motherfucker right in the fucking nose and smash his fucking nose all over his face. I'm not going to be told by some dumb fucking know-nothing that the events of my life didn't occur. Stop insisting that you know more about Satanism than me. You don't. I'm triggered by it. I'm not going to lie. When I start talking about it and people still insist to me that they know more about Satanism than me, and I say, how are you involved in worldwide Satanism? Please tell me the capacity that you were involved in. And they say, oh, I was never involved. I just read about it from the material my church provided. Or I just read about it in some fucking book or some fucking novel. You don't know a fucking thing that you're talking about, boy. And I'm certainly not going to listen to it without challenging the ignorance. I'm going to challenge your dumb fucking shit ignorance, okay? Because you're wrong, and I'm correct. And I'm trying to educate you and tell you that you're fucking wrong. You've bought into a lie created by your bullshit religion that was created by Satanists to hide what Satanism really is. So they can continue telling you a fucking lie about what it is so they can still control your fucking mind, your behavior, and ultimately enslave your fucking dumb ass. And again, it always leads to something like this. I don't want to even have a blow up. I make myself have a blow up because when I teach the material, it tells me over and over and over and over again. I see an aspect of it that people keep, that I have perfectly correct. And I'm teaching perfectly correctly. And people will say, don't focus on all those people. It's the majority of people. That's my point. That's why this is a problem. It's the majority of people who still do not understand. If the majority really got it, and it was just a tiny handful of fucking people that are the hard-headed fucking dolts that insist they know better when they have no personal experience and no knowledge, and they have negative knowledge because they're being taught a lie by their bullshit religious system, then I would say, don't worry about those people. Who gives a shit what those fucking few assholes think? It's not that. It's the overwhelming majority of fucking human beings that still believe their version of Satanism that they've been taught as a cover to not understand what real Satanism is by Satanists is still correct. I'm not going to hear that. I know the tactic. I know the technique. I was engaged in the technique. I was around the people who invented the technique. Satanists tell people believe in something else as Satanism because they don't want you to look at what Satanism really fucking is, dumb dummy of a child. Because if you learn what Satanism really is and you get your fucking mindset up and out of it, you might not be a controlled zombie fucking slave. You might actually start thinking like a free fucking being. And they don't want that. So they tell you through their religious systems, no, that's not, don't listen to this guy. That's not what Satanism is. It's people just worshiping the devil. It's just all about worship. If you're not worshiping Jesus and you're worshiping the devil, then that's what Satanism is. You dumb bag of garbage. To think that that's how unidimensional and simple this whole fucking world is, and especially this mentality, especially this ideology, you haven't learned the first fucking thing about the first fucking thing because you're an ignorant baby. And I'm going to continue to harp on it until I see progress. When people say, when I see a social media post and it says, I'm going to try to tell you today about what Satanism is, and nobody chimes in with verbal diarrhea, it's just about worshiping the devil. Why are you posting all that stuff about ideologies and stuff? Because they're just dumb fucking, I don't even want to say they're dumb fucking hillbillies or dumb fucking country bumpkins. Because those people are probably way more intelligent than the jackasses saying that Satanism is the fucking worship of the Christian devil. The idea of the Christian devil is just worshiping him instead of Jesus. Just fucking dumb bags of shit is what these fucking people are. And you're harming Earth. You're harming the people around you. You're harming the whole fucking planet in your ignorance because of how dumb you are about your master's mentality. Maybe you are one of them, mate. Maybe that's who's doing it. Maybe we have to be very suspect of all the people who insist that Satanism is not what I'm telling them it is and start thinking in the capacity these may very well be people connected to satanic organizations. They're really trying to cover the tracks of the real satanic groups by getting people to continue to believe that this is all about the worship of the Christian devil. I find anybody still saying that Satanism is about the worship of the devil so suspect that they very well may be a Satanist themselves. And we have to be highly skeptical of anybody saying that. With all of the information that's all around in the modern world, we better be very highly skeptical of anybody saying it's the religious interpretation. And we better start even thinking of them as Satanists. That's how far I'm willing to go. That as soon as someone presents that level of ignorance, I'm going to say, no, I don't even think you could be that fucking ignorant with all the information truly around in the world today regarding what it really is. And you must be a Satanist yourself trying to cover up what this ideology really is. That's the only thing that makes any fucking sense. So, let's move on. And I think we've hammered in what they want to do socially and social engineering wise, getting people to equate real value with the illusory, false, constructural, non-natural aspect of value that they want people to identify money with. And that's why things like art, music, poetry, and especially philosophy are so de-emphasized in our society and even laughed at, ridiculed, and mocked when people say that they're involved with those in any kind of a professional capacity. And people say, oh, what do you do that? You're a starving artist. You want to do that and starve, maintain your integrity, but starve to death. And this is taught to women from a very, very, very early age, especially in Western culture. So then this is extended. This idea gets extended outward into the social space. And we come to the concept of hypergamy. Now, again, hypo means under, hyper means to go beyond. And then hypergamy, the root would be in the capacity of marriage or the capacity of pairing, okay? The woman is trying to upscale, okay? So it is the idea that you are going to either pair upward or marry upward. The idea that if you have a guy who doesn't make a lot of money and a guy who does make a lot of money comes along and is interested, trade up, okay? Pair up, okay? Even if you're married, some women will look at leaving a marriage situation if it's not comfortable enough, if it's not based on enough false value and resources in the form of money, and will marry up, will divorce from their existing husband and then go with somebody else who presents the opportunity to marry into a more profitable relationship. This is what hypergamy is. Very, very destructive ideology, and unfortunately all too prevalent in the modern world, again, especially in Western society. When the inauthentic woman meets a man for the first time, the first and foremost question that she asks is, what do you do for a living? Why is it not, do you know the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior? See, I have never been asked the question, do you truly know the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior by anyone? That's one of the first things I really want to learn about a new person that I meet. Do you know the difference between right and wrong? Not how much money do you make. I could care less about that. If I ask them what they do, I only want to know, is it something that it involves right livelihood versus immoral livelihood? So they ask for the first time, what do you do for a living? Why not? Do you know the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior? Hypergamy, or in other words, marrying upward or even pairing upward, is a learned behavior that is entirely about the search for security in the inauthentic man with a high monetary income. Okay? So the concept of, if I'm going to date this person, he's got to have money so I can be taken care of. I could be pampered. I could be comforted, etc. I could live an easy lifestyle. If someone better comes along, we'll trade off. That's hypergamy. Okay? So my little memes here is the woman that's marrying a money bag instead of an adult human male. The woman to the right then who's taking stacks of money out of the breast pocket of a much older man because she's just married him or is together with him for his money. The classic example of Anna Nicole Smith marrying an old guy that clearly didn't have much longer to live, and then sadly she didn't. Just for the monetary situation. And the bottom one, very, very overweight and out of shape person who's probably in bad cardiovascular health, sadly. This guy wins $180 million in the lottery on Wednesday and then finds the love of his life just 2 days later. Talk about luck. I mean, it's comical, but, sadly it's true to a large extent in our society, And what's even sadder? Guys that put up with this. That's the big problem. See, if men wouldn't allow this and wouldn't put up with it, it wouldn't happen. And I'm going to say some things that are probably going to really badly upset both men and women. And guess what? Oh, fucking well, I'm going to say them anyway. I don't care who I offend, and I don't care what you think of me. What I'm saying is still true. And if you don't know it, I feel fucking sorry for you because you're so dumb. And if you are resistant to learning it, I feel sorry for you because you're satanically captured. Your soul and your mind are fucking gotten. They got you. Okay? So I don't even really need to get upset about the people who are resistant to it because all you're resistant to is the truth, and all you're resistant to is how actually things really work in our society, that you have to learn to get out of the fucking slavery you're already in. And being resistant to that means you're resistant to freeing yourself. And you want to stay a fucking slave. And anybody like that should be pitied and felt fucking sorry for because you're so fucking dumb instead of being hated. Okay? I feel sorry for your dumb ass. So, women are able to perform this behavior because men allow them to get away with it. Whether they're the inauthentic man, the authentic man, it doesn't matter. If it's very obvious a woman is only about the guy because of the amount of money that he makes or his status in society, it is as much the man's fault as it is the woman's fault. Because the man can disallow that if he so chooses, and oftentimes they just go along with it because they're afraid they won't be able to find anybody else, or they're just, quote, paying for the presence and the companionship of the woman anyway. And you know what that's a reflection on and of? The man's self-esteem and self-respect. That's all it's a reflection on. And I'm not saying that, if men that don't want to be involved in relationships can, go and pay for companionship. I'm not even knocking that. I'm not saying that that's necessarily an immoral thing to do. I'm saying that by participation in knowing hypergamy, in very clearly demonstrated hypergamy, and this will work in both directions, men and women, that is acting in an enabling capacity and then emboldening more people to only see money as their main aspect of value in their lives and continue to do things like this and perpetuate this abusive cycle. It's complete deception. It's complete inauthentic behavior. It's not a true relationship. It's an inauthentic relationship. Okay? So, hypergamy is marrying or pairing upward, and it is a learned behavior. This is not something that just people do naturally. This is not something that people were born and come out of the womb and they're automatically thinking, who's the person that does the most for me resource-wise? What have you done for me lately? And I'm going to the next person that can provide more resource-wise. That's not how people come out of the womb. That's not a natural behavior. This is something that is taught and learned. It's programmed into largely women's mindsets, but men's as well. It's less visible and evident that a man would be in a relationship with a woman, and if they're even getting along, if just a more attractive physically attractive woman comes along, that a man just immediately dumps the woman and then pairs up to a more attractive female. I don't even see that in most men's behavior of today. You know, just going with whatever resource I can capture that does more for me, and I'm just going to go in that direction. It's much less prevalent than the socially engineered hypergamy condition that is very deeply inculcated into most modern females in our culture, doing that for money and go trading up or pairing up to a man with more money than the previous relationship she was involved with. And that just happens to be true. It's not an attack on women. It's just I'm saying that's a more prevalent and visible situation in our society and in our world. And I think if people are being honest with themselves, they would agree with that statement. This last meme at the bottom says, if we're going to date, I need to know your credit score, how much money you have in the bank, and if you're vaccinated. You know, terrible. And folks, this was back in 2016. This is probably much more relevant today than it was in 2016 when I originally created and delivered this presentation, especially the vaccinated part. And let me tell you something, folks, if you don't think people are still on about the vaccinations and COVID and masking and closures and all of it, you're out of your mind. I mean, it's, hey, wonderful. Let me tell you something. And I'm going to, again, harp on this dynamic a little bit. Let me tell people this. It's wonderful. Good for fucking you if you live in a place that's not the mindset and that's not what people are presenting. Great. If you think it's okay to say to other people out in the whole fucking world, it's not like that where I live, so you should just uproot your whole fucking life and move from the area where you were fucking born and go move, run away and move somewhere. Run away! Here comes the fucking vicious rabbit of Monty Python, the fucking demon rabbit, and he's biting everybody. Run away! Retreat! Retreat into the fucking forest! Retreat into the fucking hills! Retreat into the fucking mountains! Don't stand your ground! Don't push back! Retreat! Back up! Back up! Back up! Go move! Moving is the answer if your whole fucking society where you were born was taken. Just retreat and give up that ground. Imagine this mentality. Move. Move if there's dumbasses who happen to be continuously pumped out by this satanic fucking system that surround me. I'm the one who needs to move. You fucking move. You fucking move. People need to fucking grow a set of balls and stand their ground and tell other motherfuckers you're a dumb motherfucker, you don't know what's going on, and you're totally fucking socially fucking conditioned, and you're fucking brainwashed, and you're fucking programmed with bad data. You're programmed with bad coding. You don't know what the fuck's going on? I'm not backing up. You're the dumb, ignorant motherfucker. You back up. This whole idea that, oh, since things are so bad where you're at, you should just move. Go and move to a place that it's better. And what? Just let Satanism take every place else, right? Go make these little tiny little piss pockets of fucking conscious people and let the fucking Satanists take the whole rest of the fucking world. Sure, great fucking plan, great fucking strategy. That'll get a lot of good done in the world. Great. That's a fucking coward's mentality that keeps backing up when things get hard. The reason we're in this fucking mess is because we keep backing the fuck up. And we never press fucking hard on these fucking people and get up in their fucking face and say, don't tell me I'm fucking wrong. I know the fucking truth. You're the one who's fucking wrong, you dumb fucking dolt. And I don't need to fucking move. You back the fuck up. You think about how prevalent this is in modern society, you know? That's all she wants to know. He's got a knife behind his back, and he'd stab her at any time, but she's only concerned about his credit score, bank account, and if he's vaccinated, you know? And that's where most women are, because that's what their Satanists They're satanic overlord masters. That's what they told them to think. And they're only allowed to think what their satanic masters programmed into their consciousness. And they may not deviate from that satanically induced and inculcated programming. And people dare to fucking tell me, as a former fucking social engineer peer of the fucking Satanist fucking masters, although I didn't get up to the top of their institutional structures. But let me tell you something. Ideologically, I was on par with them. I could see their entire plan, their whole scheme, their whole agenda laid out, and how it worked, and how deeply entrenched it was in people's minds. And I very naively and in a very ill-conceived fashion believed early on I could just undo this by putting the information that people need to understand out there. They tried to warn me about how deeply seated into the subconscious mind their programming was in the everyday average dolt of the human masses. And I didn't want to listen. I wanted to believe people were better than that. I wanted to believe that people were stronger than that. I wanted to believe people were in a better condition mental health-wise than that. I wanted to believe people were in their heart-based intelligence more holistically intelligent than all of that. And boy, was I fucking wrong. I was hardcore fucking wrong. And I have to acknowledge and admit that, not only to myself, but out into the world, how wrong I was about human beings. Because, man, were they so much more fucked up than I had ever conceived. Thank you. Thanks. I was so wrong about how fucked up people's mindset was. And I had to really rethink and relearn a lot of things that I thought I know about where the human condition was, and be honest about it. And let me tell you something. If your mindset is, oh, women around here don't ask those questions and they're okay. Everybody should. What's everybody in the fucking world gonna move to some fucking podunk fuckingville country community? That's not the solution. The solution is not to go hide in the fucking wilderness. The solution is to change consciousness where you stand. That's the real solution. To stop getting people to think satanically and starting them to get them thinking according to natural law and aligning their behavior to it. I just can't believe how many people play this fucking whole world game to lose. They play this whole fucking strategy to get beat. Think about your mindset. If your mindset is, well, if your whole society is acting around you like that, just move. Don't try to actually change the mindset. Go someplace deeper into the wilderness. Go someplace deeper into the fucking rural areas. No, I want to be where all the satanic consciousness is at so I can change it. I'm not here to run away from it. I'm here to confront it head on and force it to change. Force the change. Not just influence it a little bit. I want people to be so in these fucking people's faces that they realize what a bag of fucking shit they are, and they start turning their consciousness inward upon themselves and look at what a fucking piece of shit they've been their whole fucking lives. And then starting to develop the desire, maybe I shouldn't be such a fucking piece of shit. Then maybe we'll start to change as a community and as a species. Maybe. But until you get people to look at what a fucking piece of shit they are, they ain't gonna change. They're gonna get worse and worse and worse. And people just keep fucking backing up, keep fucking backing up, keep fucking backing up. No conflict is ever won. No competition is ever won. No war is ever won on the defensive and on the back pedal. If you watch an MMA fight, if you watch a boxing match, the person backpedaling is going to lose. The person pressing the attack is ultimately going to win. You have to go on the offensive to win any contest. You cannot win a contest on the defensive. And don't give me all this bullshit. Oh, we can use their stuff. Oh, we can counteract this way. We could do whatever fucking, I don't know what the martial art is, the one where they use the opponent's weight against them. Let me tell you something, folks. That's all nice sounding Aikido. I'm not totally knocking it. There are some decent aspects of it. But, folks, if you don't get aggressive, if you don't eventually go on the offensive in war, you get dead. You don't just lose. You get yourself killed, and you get other fucking people killed. And that's what our side is doing. We are playing to lose. We are telling people to backpedal. We are telling them not to press the attack. Ideologically. Philosophically. Ultimately. We're telling them back off. Let those people go. Cut those people loose. Don't try to change their consciousness. Just let them be like that. Let them got. Let them get got. Yeah, that's a great strategy. That's great. Because you know what it does? It focuses everything on the self. It's not about all of society at large as a species. No. It's about our comfort. My individual comfort. That's why I say we don't have a fucking freedom movement. We have a my freedom movement. And you know what that's the equivalent of? That's Satanism. It's just at a lower level. It's just at a smaller scale. That's all. It's the same fucking mindset when people tell people to do that. You gotta defeat Satan within. You have to defeat the satanic mindset, and you gotta defeat the satanic lack of care for the conversion of other people out of the satanic mindset. You see? Do you understand that that is the strategy? And how many people don't want any part of that work? How many people don't want to be involved in that war? How many people insist, that's not for me, that's for the young, that's not for me, that's for the people who know technology, that's not for me, I don't want to put that skin in the game, I want to live in comfort, I don't want that level of discomfort. That's what Satanism is. That's where it lives and dwells. If you think like that, Satan already has you. And it's not a being. It's a force in the living dynamic aspect of nature that pushes everything in the backwards direction. It's the involutionary force that we are here to fight against. We are here to strengthen ourselves by fighting against it and propel ourselves forward into the future in the evolution of human consciousness and development as a species, as individuals and as a species. And if you're not fighting that battle and you think it's for someone else, and if you insist, don't try to go and change consciousness. Cut these people loose. Let them think that way and then go somewhere where you're safe and comfortable. You're no better than them. It's Satanism in a different form. And people still don't grasp it. Because if they grasped it, I'd be hearing people say this instead of just me shouting out in the fucking wilderness. I'd be hearing a lot of people saying that and teaching people that that's what Satanism is, instead of me having to continue to make those profound fucking proclamations out to the fucking dumb, ignorant masses, largely myself. Maybe not entirely, but largely by myself. And I'm tired of doing that myself. I am telling people I am not enough. I need more help in doing that. Oh, I'm enough in the quality of the work that I've done. But it doesn't just take quality. It has to be amplified and amplified and amplified, and it needs more and more quantity. If you think it's just about quality and not about quantity, you don't get how dynamics get pushed over the tipping point, which is why I tell people really read how mass consciousness dynamics work. The occultists know the magic. They know the magic number. They know the magic percent. They know the magic ratio. You got to get at least half. It is this dynamic. A small group of people changes the world. No, a small group of people teaches other people to then eventually become teachers. And until we get half of the human population, the dynamic goes nowhere. It stays where it's at because far more than half are gotten by Satanism and the satanic ideology. We got to move it to 51%. You have to have the majority by a percent at least to really start tipping the scales in the opposite direction. It's like steering a big aircraft carrier that's been barreling toward the shoreline with no sign of stopping, that's going to come and crash on that shoreline and kill everybody in its fucking path and kill everybody on the boat. And you're trying to steer it very slow incrementally. And it's built up a lot of fucking momentum. Well, until you get that steered enough, you're not going to stop it from crashing into that shoreline in some way. And that's where we're at as a culture. That's where we're at as a species, as a whole civilization. We're barreling toward the fucking shoreline. We're heading over that fucking cliff at 1,000,000 fucking miles an hour with unstoppable momentum, and a tiny little fucking few piss ant amount of people are trying to fucking make course corrections, and it's not enough. It's not enough, and it ain't going to end up well. We need way more people doing this work, and we got to get half the fucking population to change their behavior. So, hypergamy is a learned behavior that is entirely about searching for security in a man with a high monetary income. And I think these memes perfectly illustrate the concept. We're going to continue to look at it in the form of a video. So please enable my laptop audio, because this video does have some audio. All right, so here we go. I'll be as quiet as possible for this. This is going to be a video that demonstrates in a somewhat comical capacity how hypergamy works.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
You're pretty cute. Want to hang out sometime?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, I'm just new here, so I just want to see we can chill, hang out, something.
I have a boyfriend.
You do?
Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, we can just be friends, it doesn't have to go.
It's kind of serious. I don't think it's a good idea.
Nothing?
I don't give my number out to people I don't know. Sorry.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Bye.
We got $1 million deal going on Thursday. We can't screw this up. Trust me. Yeah, no, it's a simple. About 48 million we're looking at. All right, let me call you back. All right, bye. Hi, how's it going?
Hi. Good.
Are you sitting here alone?
Yeah, I am.
Mind if I join you?
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't have a boyfriend or anything by any
No,
chance, do you?
no.
What do you got going on later on tonight?
I'm not doing anything. What are you up to?
Nothing. I don't have any plans tonight. I was wondering maybe you wanted to get a drink.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Awesome. Yeah, why don't we... Oh, actually, I'm here meeting up with my boss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm here to give him his car.
You can wash my car?
Here you go, boss. I'll wash your car.
You get my jacket?
Got your jacket in the car.
Grab my jacket.
All right. Would you like me to clean this?
Boss?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I don't know. Crazy.
Why does that matter?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
So you still want to grab a drink, or?
Oh, you have a boyfriend.
Oh, it's not that serious. So I thought it might be a good idea. I mean, we could get to know each other.
Wait, so do you have a boyfriend or you don't?
No, it's not that serious.
I guess we could hang out maybe like 10, 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, you want to...
But I hate liars and gold diggers. Too bad.
So, there is the dynamic of hypergamy, and I would say that's highly accurate. And some people will be offended by that. Some people will say, oh, no, it's not that bad in today's culture. Let me tell you something. In just about every major city on this planet, a situation like that would happen almost identically to that. In the majority of major populated modern cities, you're going to have a majority of inauthentic, conditioned women that are going to behave somewhat or almost identical to that situation. Get as offended as you want about it, it's still true, because that's what people have been taught. And it's set up in a comical way because, the original guy who asks her, if she wanted company, is immediately rejected based on his appearance, her thinking that he doesn't have a lot of resources because of the way he dressed, and then her thinking that the assistant driving up in the expensive sports car is the guy making a whole lot of money, and then them adding the twist that that's just his assistant and the real boss, who was the first guy, is the actual owner of the sports car, and then her trying to play the switch. That's hypergamy. Switch it out. Go to the one who's actually the one with more resources. Pair up. Okay? And he's saying, I don't like people who are liars, because she told him she didn't have a boyfriend, or did have a boyfriend, then is switching her story, and he basically calls her a gold digger and drives away. And again, this is what's being taught culturally to females in our society, sadly. It's really a horrible, horrible dynamic, because this is not, again, a natural condition. I will not accept. Number one, let me not even word it like that. Not only do I not believe, I don't accept, I will not accept, I know factually and definitively and objectively that this is not the nature of women. Let me say this again. I want to say this. I want it clear, and I want people to understand it's not an opinion. Factually, definitively, and objectively, I know the truth of the matter, that this condition is not the nature of human females. If you believe that this is the nature of human females, you yourself are a brainwashed, inauthentic dolt. You don't understand enough about mind control, social engineering, and human conditioning. That being said, I just told you that I think this is the case in most modern cities throughout most of Western civilization and Western culture in the whole world today. Because that is the human condition. That is the condition that humanity, particularly females of modern day humanity, have been worked into through social engineering. So I'm telling you, that is not their nature. That is the current condition that most of the women of today's society, especially younger women, like in her age bracket, early to mid 20s, maybe late 20s, find themselves in. And if you insist that that's not true, once again, I don't need to even launch an ad hominem attack, although I could, and it's still true. What I said is still true. And the reason, if you disagree, is you don't have enough knowledge from the correct understanding of the social engineering point of view and mindset and tactics and techniques to understand that what I'm saying regarding this not being the nature of women, but being the condition that women have been worked into through social engineering. You haven't done enough homework on the topic. You haven't read enough books. You haven't listened to enough lectures. You just haven't gathered the grammar. Probably for you, the ARC drive would do you a lot of good. And I'm not just saying that because I want a lot of orders for it. I'm saying it's a repository of grammar. I call it the amazing repository of knowledge. But what it really is taking the grammar that people need to understand and putting it in their hands. And even giving them control over that data, because it's all offline and they can then do whatever they want with it. They can give it to other people. They can copy it for their friends, relatives, neighbors, family, etc. If the grammar is in people's hands, I still, to this day, feel that they are going to be capable of making the correct logical decision-making processes based on the grammar to come to an accurate understanding of the grammar. I still think people on modern day Earth are capable of doing that. And maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I think if the data is in their hands instead of withheld from them, they will eventually process the data correctly and come to the correct conclusions about what it means. The problem is they don't even have the data. Not only don't they have the correct data, they don't have the data at all. You know, they're looking into completely conflicting data, which is constantly pushed on them, and never looking in the correct data because they don't even know how to acquire it. That's the problem. All right, let's move on. Another big part of the satanic neo-feminism and epi-eugenics agenda is materialism. Let's face it, in the original dialectic materialism proposed by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, the other members of the Communist Party, the Communist League, which predated the Communist Party, dialectical materialism was the basis for the entire argument against capitalism and against and for socialism and eventually communism. And again, materialism fuels both communism and capitalism, especially crony capitalism, not legitimate capitalism, or what I would simply call true free market capitalism. What it does is it basically puts into the notion of the believer of this illusion, lie, deception, poisonous satanic ideology, that everything is reduced to its physical dynamics and nothing has any elements or qualities beyond the physical. The material world reigns, the material world is supreme, and it eventually leads people further and further into the worship of the material, which manifests as consumerism. People simply being a consumer of products, being a consumer of resources, and eventually that leads to completely out of control materialistic consumerism. I call it rampant consumerism. You can call this rampant materialism. So women largely drive the world's corporate economy. They make a lot of the purchasing decisions in a familial dynamic about which products are going to be purchased, about which services are going to be purchased and received. And once again, this is because in the familial dynamic, the woman, especially when she biologically procreates and becomes a mother, is going to be the biggest influential dynamic within the familial unit. Whether it's even just a platonic situation between a man or a woman, whether it's a romantic situation between a man or a woman, or whether that familial dynamic has actually created then and led to a family dynamic, whether it's in a family setting, such as a nuclear family or an extended family. Women are going to be the ones making these product purchasing decisions. So they drive largely the world's corporate economy. I didn't say that they create it or they steer it, but they drive it through their purchases. Women are responsible for over 80, and this is, you can look all of these statistics up. This is all born out of vetted and confirmed research. Okay? Women are, in today's society, are responsible, and this number may have gone up since I created and delivered this presentation originally. But when I researched it and delivered it in 2016, women were responsible for over 85% of the total purchases of all goods and services in the world. Now, let me say that again because it's a number that most people can't even wrap their mind around. Women are responsible for over 85% of all goods and services. The purchase of 85% of all goods and services in human society, according to corporate and consumer advocacy studies. And again, these results were from 2016. That number could have even gone up since then. This is not only well past the natural expected median, which would be a 50-50 split, but it is ridiculously skewed. It's skewed by 35 percentage points toward women. Nothing that is skewed that much in breakdown between men and women is naturally occurring. Nothing. You will not find any breakdown other than do you have a penis that is skewed that much, okay? And in today's society, maybe not even that one, okay? Let me tell you that, okay? You are not going to find a skewed percentage factor that is that skewed past the natural medium of half, other than who makes the product purchasing decisions in your family unit, in your familial unit, whether it's a family or otherwise. It is ridiculously skewed, and it shows just how much corporate advertising is completely geared toward the manipulation of women, their purchasing power, and their power to influence societal trends. And what dynamic do they influence those societal trends through, ladies and gentlemen? They use their ability to influence men, to influence those trends and that dynamic. Make no mistake about it. And then once again, it comes back to, is the man going to allow themselves to be manipulated just because they want companionship, physicality, etc. from biological females? Are they going to allow women to exert that kind of influence and power over all society? Now, let me tell you something. I started this presentation with the intent and the message that I am trying to get women to elevate their understanding of the social conditioning that they are subject to, influenced by, and held under, to get them to truly and fully realize the extent of their power to do good in the world. This is a measure of the exact opposite dynamic. This is, and it could be turned into a good dynamic, because if women influence societal trends toward the right reasons, they could influence the purchasing of good goods and services that are not harmful, that are not devastating to human health and devastating to human freedom. But what I'm saying is, we have to understand how much power, in whether you look at it in a natural capacity or in a slightly social engineered capacity, the influence that women have to affect the decisions of men and children in society. They are the linchpin of the familial dynamic. That's why the social engineers have specifically targeted them. They know that they're this linchpin. They know that if they target them with their mind control, with their social engineering, with their psychological manipulation, and put that all into the advertising, they're going to heavily influence the linchpin of the societal familial bond in society. And where the women are led, they will then take the men and children. All of the totalitarian regimes throughout human society knew this, because to one extent or another, they were all influenced by occult psychology and occult dynamics. And if you look at specifically the information that I laid out in Two Masks, you're going to realize why that's completely interconnected with this presentation. And people like Hitler said, where the women are led, the men and children will follow. And I just want to give an update. We have rendered out Two Masks, Same Face to a final video. I am going over it now to make sure nothing else needs to be changed. We're at that point. So it's going to be soon, folks. I know people have been waiting patiently, but let me tell you something. Going back and even looking at small pieces of it where I haven't been through the full 8 hours of it yet. Wow. I mean, I hit it was beyond a grand slam, okay? It was just, I'm very, very, very happy with how the whole thing went and how this is going to be presented out to the public. I cannot say enough about it. And thank you to my editor, Joel, for doing such a great job on the editing. It will be there soon. I have to do some, proofing of it. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll get it there. And it'll go into What on Earth is Happening donation gifts very soon. It will stay there for 90 days after it's put in there, and then we'll release it for free. So, we have to understand they're targeting women for a specific reason because they know their influential capacity in all of human society. These social engineers are many things, but one thing they are not are dummies. These people really know how this dynamic works. They have their finger on that pulse, and man, are they steering it in the direction they want to see it go highly successfully. We have to wake up to how they do things, folks, and we're not. We're not. The very dynamic that I wanted to really re-deliver this presentation is, to me, is rock solid proof. We're not moving our knowledge in the right direction as a society. We are resistant to the truth. We are resistant to how, we don't want to look at how their mind control methodologies work because we're embarrassed by it. We're ashamed of it. We don't want to acknowledge that we've been duped to this degree, to this extent. That's the problem. We have to stop saying, I'm not duped. That doesn't work like that, and acknowledge we're duped, and it works like that. I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong. When I've gotten the answer wrong, I will tell you I'm wrong. When I've truly vetted the answer. When I was talking to the Satanists and saying, people can't be that dumb. People can't be that brainwashed. If they just get some information, they're going to pursue it. They're going to find the truth, and they're going to change the way they think and behave. And my God, how I was wrong. Do I still think that's possible to a certain extent? Yes, I do, but only if we make a fucking team effort, folks. One person cannot bring the truth to humanity. It's got to be a massive team effort. And quite frankly, I feel like my team are on the losing side of that equation. We've been playing to lose. We haven't smartened ourselves up nearly to the extent that we need to gain intelligence and smarten ourselves up to. And we are getting our asses beat unmercifully. I mean, you're getting your ass beat so unmercifully, it's as bad as Saul Rosenberg getting beat at the basketball game and his teeth ended up in his hairpiece. Okay, so for people that don't recognize the reference, that's an old Jerky Boys comedy phone call. All right, that's how bad you're getting beat. It makes what Saul went through at the game look like a picnic. All right, so if you don't think we're getting beat that bad, you're delusional. Okay, absolutely fucking delusional. This concept that we're winning. I mean, I'm not going to get started. Okay, because somebody needs to make me a cartoon of Ralph Wiggum and his whole hand is up his nose, and he's just yelling, "We're winning!" And I'm just going to put that out there and call it the freedom movement. Okay, in quotes, freedom, and in quotes, movement. But, we'll just label it freedom movement. Both words are in quotes. And Ralph Wiggum with his hand jammed up his nostril, screaming, "We're winning," is going to be the poster child. That's going to be the mascot of the freedom movement. Yeah, we're winning. We're winning when we don't even understand how fucking Satanists socially condition and engineer the human mindset to create the condition that they're creating. And we're winning. Yeah. We can see all the chains and shackles and see that we're in a fucking cage. Oh, but that means that we're winning because we can see that? You don't understand. You're not winning unless you fucking understand what put you in that condition. That's how you know how not to get put in that condition. It ain't about breaking out of the prison. It's about never getting fucking put in the chains to begin with. Don't you get that? No, most people don't. Because they're already in the chains. They're not even fucking free here. You know? Let alone are they not free physically, they're not even free in the fucking mind. That's why they're not free physically. Because they don't have this knowledge in hand. Another thing in the woke community, in the neo-feminist agenda community, is this idea of equality that is not true equality under human rights. See, as I stated in the very beginning of this extended presentation weeks ago, true classical feminism began as women wanting equality and equal treatment under natural rights. They wanted equal pay for equal work. They wanted equal rights treatment. If men have these rights, all beings have these rights, so women should have those rights too. Neo-feminism not only became this idea that somehow women are superior to men, that we want to topple an imagined patriarchy and erect a matriarchy on top of its ruins, but we want to create sameness throughout society. Not equality under rights, but actual sameness in characteristics, appearance, ability, etc., all the way down the line, so we make everybody act and operate and exist at the least common denominator. And that's not doing anything good for human society. That's actually holding it back. That's doing damage to human society. That's not forward progress. That's backwards progress. Okay? So the neo-feminist agenda continually reinforces the notion that women are the same as men, not just having equal rights as men, but the same in characteristics and abilities and as well. And this is certainly not true. This is illusion, this is delusion, this is imaginings. That's why, how many women in the neo-feminist / woke agenda are cheering transgenderism in women's sports? Now, again, I don't care about people's gender identity. I have friends that are gay. I have friends that are transgendered. I have friends that are bisexual. It doesn't matter. I don't judge people based on anything like that. As long as somebody knows the difference between right and wrong behavior and doesn't advocate for human slavery, you could be my friend. Okay? And I accept people for who they are, how they want to see themselves, whatever. It's not a non-issue to me. What I'm talking about here is when you push for sameness in everything, what did you expect to happen? It's why it's a very almost comic irony. They say, we're all the same characteristics, same abilities. Let biological men transgender and then compete in women's sports. Well, what's happened to women's sports? Women are getting very, very, very seriously injured, like potentially life-altering injuries in some cases, with biological men participating in women's sports because they're transgendered. It's like, how would you expect a biological female to compete in, let's just say, a physical cage match with a biological male that's almost twice her weight, probably outweighing her by 65 to 75% or more, and with the muscle tension, force and dynamics of a biological male? Women are getting maimed. Then they're joining things like track and field and weightlifting and swimming, etc. You don't think that men are going to be able to dominate? That's why, first of all, that's why these transgendered, quote, females that are biological men want to be in those positions. They are trying to embarrass and humiliate women, largely because they don't have a lot of self-respect themselves, or they're so delusional to buy into this aspect of sameness. There's nothing the same about the physical frames and forms of biological men and female. And if you don't think so, that you're really anti-science. You know, say what you want about gender identity, identify all you want, but if we're putting people in an actual competition like a fight, most women are not going to fare very well. Now, that's not to say there are some lightly framed men and some heavily framed, heavy-boned women. That's true. But for the most part, the human anatomy is built a certain way in biological men and biological females, and that's just a scientific fact of the matter. And again, the neo-feminists kind of got what they were asking for. It's slightly comically ironic, although it's not really that funny. Sometimes I could joke and gag about it, but it's like you see some of these women getting very seriously maimed, you know? And in a way, women who bought into this agenda brought it onto themselves. So let's continue to explore this dynamic. The satanic neo-feminist agenda reinforces the notion that women are the same as men, not just having equal rights, but same in characteristics and abilities as well. This is one of the main techniques used to influence women to join the corporate workforce, which remove them from their traditional roles as nurturers of the young, of children. So they want them to say, you're going to be the same in all the roles that you play and fulfill in human society. We're going to take you out of the traditional established familial and family dynamics roles as the nurturers, caretakers of the young, of children, and we're going to move you into the corporate environment that was originally traditionally occupied by mostly by men in society, and that's going to create equality. No, that's going to make you do the same things that men did, and then what is the role for the nurturer and the caretaker of children? Well, then that's going to get passed off to the state. It'll get passed off to a nanny of some kind if the couple is rich enough, which in most cases it's not. So then it's going to get passed off to the state in the form of public schooling. So, you know, this other idea that, schooling and the Department of Education is so necessary, folks, 200 years ago, it would have been inconceivable for parents to send their family to the state, send their children to the state to be educated. And I went all over a lot of that in Two Masks, the creation of the modern education system based on the Prussian educational model and occultists that influenced that before the Prussian model was even invented and implemented. But it's a fascinating study to do that and see how these social engineers conspired and worked through occult means to actually get the women into the workforce and the children into public schooling where they can mold their minds toward their agendas and goals. Children were then largely turned over to the state-run indoctrination system in public schooling in order to shape their beliefs and destroy their health and morals. And let me tell you something, once again, the social engineers not only have the advantage, they're kicking our ass. They've largely accomplished this. It's been an utter and tremendous success according to their plans, their motives, their agendas. Abandonment issues are also created in children through parents being absent from them during the 15,000 hours of compulsory schooling that children endure during the course of their so-called public education, their laughingly called education. Make no mistake, this agenda is not about equality under natural law, as would be the case. We're looking at that top scales of justice. They're balanced for the male, symbol as well as for the female. One doesn't dip in either direction because we all share the same natural rights, the same moral rights under natural law. Instead, we have this separation created by the state where both parents are put on the treadmill of endless work for a salary, and then the child is educated, laughingly so-called educated, by the hand of the state. Great meme there, whoever created it, very simple, very effective. In order to look more into this dynamic, you really have to look into the creation of the Prussian educational model and the modern day public schooling system that was ushered particularly into the United States, first, of course, through Europe, but then brought over into the United States by Horace Mann and other social engineers. I dissected a lot of that in Two Masks because, of course, that is an occult operation. And, of course, it had a tremendous amount to do with both Nazi and communist educational models. So this is another dynamic you hear in the neo-feminist agenda, in the neo-feminist community, and in the modern-day quote-unquote woke community. There's nothing woke about it. People are still completely asleep and are just pushing an aspect of the globalist agenda. That's why I hate the word woke. I use the term awake. Truly awaken, truly enlighten yourself, truly edify yourself, which means feed yourself all the knowledge that you truly need to truly awaken and to truly become enlightened as a human being. All right, so let's move on. So I call this section the Unholy Matrimony, which is the wedding between the modern, inauthentic woman and government, the modern-day state. The conditioned woman is being engineered to love the state, to love government, okay? They look at it as the protective father figure. Oh, we have to have government in place because who will take care of people? Who will protect people? They look at it as the proxy parents. That's why there's always two parties. One has to represent the father psychologically. That's the Republican Party, usually the conservative. That's going to act as the fatherly protector. And then you have the mother psychological proxy as a political party. That's the Democrat. That would be Labor. That would be liberal. Okay? And that's going to act as the motherly, nurturing, caring figure that wants to see everybody taken care of like a nanny from cradle to grave. You see the intelligence of the social engineers, how they break things down in dialectic polarization. It's always a dialectic. It's always two sides being played off against each other, but they're always leading people to the same end result. And we're not psychologically sophisticated enough to see the technique. So they're being engineered to love government for the small perks they are given by it. But on a subconscious level, they have bought into the state as the protective father figure, an expression of parental abandonment issues, and also the parental motherly nurturing figure. Emotional, spiritual, and sexual connections between men and women are being eroded and eventually eradicated by the state. The state continually positions itself to be psychologically accepted as the provider, the protector, and the husband of this unholy relationship. The vast majority of women in our modern-day society will not speak out against the state for these very reasons. They believe it's protecting them from harm when it's enslaving them and putting them into greater and greater danger and harm. They believe that it's somehow going to act as a provider because it forcefully and violently reallocates and redirects resources where it sees fit. But in fact, that is completely playing into its own agenda of enslavement and control. And people have to look into the origins of Nazism to understand this. They have to look into the occult origins of communism to understand this dynamic. And they have to look into the origins of the modern educational system. And maybe, at some point here on What on Earth is Happening, we can do breakdowns of all of those things. I would like to do maybe next season. Right? Let's set it up already for next season. How about this? The entire season of 2025 is just going to be one long extended breakdown of Two Masks, Same Face, the the occult or the dark occult origins of Nazism and communism. I'm going to present that data, that information, and more deep research into that all next year. Okay? That's how far in advance I'm going to plan the material of what on earth is happening. We're rapidly running out of time, so I'm not going to advance to the next slide. I want to just stay on this position. Once the relationship, the true masculine, that should be the sacred masculine, gets removed from the relationship, and the state comes in as the, quote, husband of the relationship between men and women in our society, it's over. The familial bond is completely done. And Satanism ultimately rules the entire society and civilization. That's all the time that we have for this edition of What on Earth is Happening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. I know the title card's going to drop down any second. There it is. We will continue our breakdown of Unholy Feminine, the Satanic epi-eugenics agenda, next week here on What on Earth is Happening. We'll see you then.
We bring to all who hear our words what